Hey everyone, welcome back to AK Academy with this new video. I'm going to review basically the new utility that you have been, of course, hearing about recently, which is the GitHub Copilot. GitHub Copilot, it made some noise recently because of it is basically, if you check their official website, it says in a summary that you're AI pair programmer, which is basically a utility that's going to help you write code by completing some code snippets for you or suggesting some full code snippets for you, classes, methods, and stuff like that. So basically the majority of the stuff that you are going to find online when you are checking if this utility is good for you or no is mostly for Python and JavaScript. Even on their website, you can notice in here, they are talking about Go, Ruby on Rails, JavaScript, Java, but no one mentioned .NET. So basically this is the video where I'm going to show you my my experience with this GitHub Copilot for the past 2 or 3 months, using it full time. I'm using it in my work, on my YouTube tutorials, on my open source projects, or even when I'm doing some algorithms and data structures and this kind of thing. So basically, I'll be sharing with you the real experiment that I have found after this experience, and whether you should go for it or no. So I will be covering some points, 5 or 6 points throughout this video, where I find this the GitHub Copilot very efficient for me, where it's actually helping, what is the percentage of its help while I'm writing code using mostly C# and on a different environment, whether it's Blazor, it's ASP.NET, Azure Functions, whatever it is very good in multiple cases. But first, let's understand very quickly how basically GitHub Copilot works. So what it does is it is backed by the cloud, so it learns from the public repositories available out there on GitHub, and so it has a wide range of experience from different repos, different projects, different type of projects, and hundreds, maybe thousands or millions of programmers. This is its main source of knowledge. In addition for that, it learns it from you. It learns it from your own code, from your own repos, from your own solutions and projects, and it tries to adapt for your own coding style. So this is why if 2 developers actually created the same file with the same name, with the same projects, sometimes GitHub Copilot would not suggest the same helpers for you or for the other developers, because it tries to adapt for your own syntax. So basically it learns locally from you, and it learns from the cloud, and the more over time it's just going to get better and better, because it's not kind of expert system where it's backed by if and else's and stuff like that. No, it is fully using AI and machine learning algorithms that's making this work happen. So basically, the more the people use it, more repos out there, it's going to be better and better. And of course, GitHub respects all your privacy if you don't want to share your code with it. This is another topic. But let's move right now to some points that I want to share with you using Copilot in my Visual Studio. So here I have opened 3 different solutions. Those are demos. This is not this is the Planner app course that I have on my YouTube channel. This is the open source library that I have, and this is the other course that we are going through, which is the AK Expenses Tracker, a serverless application that runs using Azure Functions. So we will see how good it is in those different stuff and what kinds of things that it helps me with. I will start first by the most thing that I like about GitHub Copilot is basically removing the repeated and boring code that you face while you are writing new projects or existing ones when you are modifying whatever. There is always some kind of code that is very boring to write, and it's very repeated. One of this code is, for example, if I go to Planner app course, Planner app is a WebAssembly project, so which means it's a full front-end project, right? So to communicate between the front end and the server side or the API, you need to use HTTP clients to make those calls basically happens. And to make this happen, basically what we need to do is we need to use HTTP client to make get, post, put, delete requests. And the bigger your project is, the more those requests exist. You can write some extension methods and you can write some helpers, but still there is some this code is like feeling very boring because it's not 100% straight to the point of what you are trying to do. So I will open right now the HTTP plan service. So let's see what it contains. If I check the methods in here, like it has create async, delete async, edit, get by ID, get plans async, and some like helper functions. So in here, as you can see, those calls are actually like here I'm making a post request to create a new plan, or making a post request to edit, get, and so on and so forth. So basically, I may like using some helpers, as I've said, creating extension methods to reduce like this code, but still like it is sometimes it is you have to write it. And actually GitHub Copilot is very good at managing, like once you write a little bit of them, he is very good at continuing those. So for example, let's suppose that there is no delete in here. So if I removed it, and right now I want to write the delete function, so what I do is I will start by typing public async task delete async, and then I will pass an ID in here, like that, and here we go. So GitHub Copilot makes this suggestion that actually continues everything. If I hit tab, okay, it's added another curly brackets for me, but that's okay. So it wrote the full lines. It manages the URL based on, because he knows like how the URL looks like. This plans is because, okay, I don't know how exactly it's working behind the scenes because I'm not very good at AI, but like basically from a high perspective, if you noted that all of those within the plans service, so this is the URL, and because it's delete, so it has to be like delete async, not post or get. This is ID, and it's not going to check like here when you are getting by ID, we check if it's successful, so fetch the data from the body of the response. But because it's delete, so there is nothing to retrieve, it's just delete. So just to check if it didn't fail, because if it does, just throw an exception. So it didn't add the first part of the code, which is check if it succeeded and retrieve something. There is nothing to retrieve, which is very good. So it written that for me, and it saves me those 4 lines, either to copy them or stuff like that. So even when you have more and more, it's always helping. Even like if your style having or functionalities has more than this, it will do that based on your previous code, and it will try to suggest all the changes that you need based on the context of the code that you are writing in. So if you type delete async in some other files, it's not going to be the exact same thing, but because he knows how those files looks like, how this project looks like, this is why he suggested the thing. So that's something very, very useful, and it does this very well. And sometimes when you're writing repeated code, for me, sometimes it saves you like more than 50% of the time, which is very good. Sometimes more, sometimes 70%, sometimes 30, but overall, it is very good at doing this. Let's see another example of writing boring code. So for example, when you start a new project and you are using Entity Framework, for example, so you have a set of models you need to create, and you need to fill out the properties, you need to create the enums, and for me, this is like extremely boring thing. Actually, GitHub Copilot is very good at doing this. So if I go to shared, for example, I'm not right now in a ASP.NET Core web project, but web API, but still like the idea would be somehow the same. So I will create a new shared, I will call it book.cs as an example. So I have a class called book. I'll remove the class and I will type it myself, public class book. And if we wait a little, here we go. So GitHub Copilot suggested everything. That's not everything, like 100% of the properties, but somehow like the majority of the stuff that you need in the book is already there. He knows that, and he gives you the suggestions. If you need more, that's okay. Hit enter, and he will try to think of a little bit more. So I will add like date time, create the date. Okay, come on. Here we go. So the more you write, the more it adapts to basically what you are trying to do. So we need an ID, for example. We need the total pages. There is user ID. So this continuation is not hard. This is already existing in Visual Studio, but you can have like this. And so it helps you with this. Sometimes it is more than this. So the reason why I didn't add all of this for us is because I am in a DDOs file where actually we don't have too much IDs and too much like modification data and stuff like that. Those are DDOs, not full models. But if you are full models, sometimes it's adding all of the code for you, which is very good. But still, it saves you, instead of writing 10 lines, he wrote 5 for you, so you still have to write 5. This is in this case, which is 50%. That's great. It does, of course, more. Like if I have a class shopping cart, and in here we go. So it suggested that we have a quantity, we have the creation date of this shopping cart, the update date, the user ID, the ID of the cart, and the book quantity. That's good. Of course, sometimes it is not always 100%, so you need to make the change that you need to do, but still it saves you some time. Like editing a lit code is not same for writing it from scratch. It's always with enums. Like if I type public enum book status, as you have seen, available, not available, this is in the stock, for example. Another example, let's take like public enum severity, low, medium, high. So it is doing very good with this kind of things. It really saves you a lot of time, and I like this utility when it comes to this kind of thing. So if you are looking for this, if you have a lot of this kind of boilerplate code, or you have a lot of like properties generations, and this one is absolutely amazing. It's not only about this, like it also properties, it does more, but this is what it comes to my mind right now. This is the first point that I want to cover. Right now, let's move to the next one, which is basically while you are writing some kind of, you are writing business logic, and this business logic is actually requiring some kind of algorithms or like problem solving. Actually, GitHub Copilot is perfect at doing this. So let's take an example. I have in here in the Planner app also, I will give a like simple example, then I will show you a real world example that I have done. If we go to components, plans, and we have here plans cart list. So in here we have like list of, or a page of plans. So a page, and inside the page we will have, if I check what's inside that page, it's called result dot. So you can see that we have records, which are the items, so which is enumerable. So I need to shuffle those items randomly. Like I don't need them to be seen in the same order that they come from the server. I need to shuffle them randomly. So what you can do is maybe check Stackoverflow. If you are good at writing link, you know what you are going to do, but still GitHub Copilot can save you both. So all I have to do is, I'll take an example, private void shuffle plans, and then I'll wait a little bit and look at that. It suggested that for me. What happened is it made a mistake. It says result.items, while actually the name of the properties is records, but it is my bad, I think, because I called them here items count. I'm calling it here records. And actually, I don't think the name records is very common, so items makes more sense. So he's right, I'm wrong. So this is another benefit. You have to be clear with your names to actually clear with your names and your conventions to be to get the best out of this. But still, it manages to shuffle them, and let's see the solution that it suggested. So basically, he says, I will order your records by random new GUID every time. That's perfect. That actually gives you the result. And here, for example, void, or let me try to use comments instead of a method. I will call it like order the results by title, the title of the plan. So what I'm going to do in here, it does that already. So it just suggested, and right now he knows that, okay, it is called records, it's not items. So he improved what he was doing, and it ordered them by title. So that's very good, right? And there is actually sometimes more complicated stuff, and it just helps you, especially when this kind of things, when you need to go to Stack Overflow to check for multiple solutions. GitHub Copilot is perfect at doing that, which means like you're going to go to Stack Overflow less, and that's perfect. Not because this means, or like Stack Overflow will be out, of course, no, but GitHub Copilot is already trained of what is there. And sometimes either you are like junior developer or a very senior developer, you don't remember anything. There is some stuff that you write from time to time and you don't always remember it. GitHub Copilot always helps. Just describe it correctly in the code or name your method perfectly and it will be helping you. One time I was in my work, GitHub Copilot helped me like perfectly, which was, we have a task where you have a list of items just like those in here that you can see right now in Windows in the taskbar. So the task was included is that the user can sort them just like this. So for example, here's this item, he wanted this item to be in here, so he just push it like this using drag and drop, and then he can bring it back, and this order affects some other business logic in the code. So I need to write some kind of function after I created the components, designed the stuff. I need to write the logic of the swap, because the swap is not too hard, but it's also not very easy or straightforward to process, because there is some, as I've said, business considerations in there. So what I had to do is to write a code that there is some arrays, like whenever you move this, so make sure to push everything in front one step back, and vice versa if you are going the other direction, and make sure that you keep the sequence correctly. And what I have done is, the function was like around 20 lines of code, so I have typed like void swap, and here I pass first item, and I pass like second item, and then I tab like this, and I'm thinking about what I should do, and boom, like GitHub Copilot written all the code for me. It even put the considerations based on the array that I have and the context of the component that I have, and he did everything perfectly. So I just had one tab, fixed some names, and I was very good. So it saved me like 15 to 20 minutes in one single tab click. So that was amazing. And actually, this is another reason why I very recommend this utility for you to get started with. But we are going to talk about the cases at the end why you shouldn't get it in some scenarios. So this is the point. Right now, let's move to another one, which is comments. Another big advantage of using GitHub Copilot is comments. Comments is a crucial part of your code always. Like, you need to describe how this function works, what the upcoming line is doing, or what the upcoming section is doing, what this method is doing, or this class is for this property, or whatever. So it is for yourself to keep your code clean and readable. It is for yourself to be able to come to the code later, and in some cases it is mandatory, because when someone else written the code and he gives you like a function of 20 to 30 lines of code, but it's not commented, so it's your own work to basically understand the code and to know what this code is actually happening, to know how to use it or even to modify it. GitHub Copilot is perfect at writing comments. So let's take an example. I will go to the register form in here. So we have the register form, and it has like, if I go to the code behind, so this is the code behind. Register basically has like register user async method that does the things. Okay, for this case, this function is easy to read, so you can read it quickly, but this is a good example for us. If I want to write comments for this, what I will be doing is I will add something like that, and then I will wait a little bit. Okay, it suggested something that's somehow readable, but I know that register user async is going to register a new user. But you can push Copilot to tell you more about what is inside by typing, like, for example, put a space with given a credential. Okay, let's put another space and navigate to the login page. Okay, that's very good, right? So despite that this one is a simple function, but it tells you what it does, like using given credentials. Maybe let's try to using credentials. Let's try to push it more by typing like by. Okay, it doesn't tell us anything. So I will remove. By calling the authentication service, okay, and redirect to the login page. That's very good. So it written this function for me. So I written 3 words instead of this. So even if you understand what this one is doing, you just want to write comment for others to know, GitHub Copilot will save you, like, instead of writing 20 words, you're going to write 3 or 4. So that's 70% of your time. That's good. If you are going to say, okay, this line actually counts, because when you are working over the full day, like couple seconds from here, this line I save like 1 minute, from this method I save 2 minutes, this method I save 10 seconds, you'll end up like with additional 2 hours in your day writing code. This is in average, maybe you can have more. Also for lines by lines, GitHub Copilot knows what this one is doing, calling authentication service, and in here it can tells you describe like each one of those. Even as I've said, for complicated functionality, sometimes it is doing very good at writing comments for those. And so that's another reason why some people sometimes ignore comments, but right now you can do that. So for example, if I came in here, added this, oh no, it's not get the plans from the server, it's basically create a new plan by calling the API. Okay, so as you have seen, it's not always doing 100%, but it's based on the context. But still, on the comments, it is doing very good. I'm satisfied with its experience. Now, let's move to another point, which is the unit testing. You know that GitHub Copilot is also very good at unit testing. Unit testing is somehow, it is interesting, but time-consuming at the same time. And the GitHub Copilot is very good at actually helping you writing those tests. So I will move to my open source library, which is AK localization multi-languages. So in here, this unit testing class that contains some tests for the iLanguage container service, which is basically like a service that has some some logic to retrieve keys of a specific language that you can use in your apps, and a functionality called the change language that allows you to change the language. So I want to make sure that the change language function is working perfectly and it's actually changing the function. So to write a unit test for that, I'll type test in here, and then I'll type public void change language should change the language correctly. So this is just a sample name. So after I open, oh, look at this. So after I describe what I want to do, I just hit tab and my unit test actually has been written. So what it does is it creates a new instance of the keys provider, a new instance of the service. Okay, he knows that from other classes. He set the language to Spanish by default. Of course, it learns from other stuff. And he tried to retrieve a key, which is the hello in Spanish, and it should be all and. If it's like this, so that's good. Then try to change the language and make it English, and retrieve the same key. And if the value is hello, so you are good. So basically, it's written the whole unit test. It understood what he should be doing, and he did it perfectly. The only thing that he didn't do correctly, the name of the function, was wrong because it's called set language. So it's my problem. It's actually change and not set. So I should rename the function, but so instead of writing all this code, I just have to do this. And if I've written the name correctly, that makes more sense. I didn't have to do that. So actually, this is just a simple example. It helps you more and more. Of course, don't depend on it to write the full unit test for you every single time, like the full function, just change something. But like instead of writing like 100 lines of code, it's good to write like 90s, and if 90 only, and if you can write only 70, 50, that's better. So even if you save a line, that's good. So those are actually somehow the main point that I wanted to show you. There is some little things here and there that actually very useful in case of using GitHub Copilot. Like for example, especially when it comes to Stack Overflow, there is some code that's not depending on your experience, but it is just there because you need how to use it. Like upload a file to Azure Blob Storage. So how you know if you haven't used the SDK before, how you're going to upload a file, even if you are an experienced developer. You need to go check the Stack Overflow, check the documentation and stuff like that. GitHub Copilot can do that for you. If you are in the right context and you call the function like save, maybe you call the class Azure Blob Storage Service, and then there is a save async, it will basically go ahead and write that code for you. So all you have to do is just to bring the packages and install them. Let me show you an example. Here in the AK expenses tracker, where I have seen this in action actually is in here I have iStorage service that's called, it has save file async and delete file async. And I have implemented an Azure Blob Storage service for it. And most of this code has been written by GitHub Copilot actually. Also, if I want to write like a new functionality, GitHub Copilot is very good. One more example, which is very useful, that doesn't make you go to Stack Overflow, is get content type. Like in here, when you are uploading a file, you need to set the header in for that file over the web. So he knows that the content of this request is like application JSON, image PNG, image JPEG or GIF or whatever. So usually if you are not familiar with those, you need to check the dictionary online to know, like check some, I don't know, Wikipedia or Firefox website, W3 schools, just to know the content type for a corresponding extension. But GitHub Copilot knows that, so it saves you the time to go and make that research for this fixed thing. So if I type in here like .mp3 for example, is it going to suggest? Yeah, here we go. So it knows what to suggest. And if I type .pdf, it's going to do that for you. So this is little string, but it is very important because you alone, you're not going to know this string, especially if you are using a new extension. Like I always upload the PNG file, so I know that the content type of those in the web header is image/PNG, same for PDF, but I don't know the rest. So actually GitHub Copilot written all of this for me, and it makes my life very easy because I don't have to go and make the research online and bring the table. He's doing that perfectly. One more thing, I need to replace a file. So just upload the file on top of the other one. So I'm right now already within an Azure storage service, so he knows the context. So type is public async task replace file async, and I will upload like stream file string file path, the full file, the full path of the file. If I hit enter, let's see what GitHub Copilot is going to do. He did everything. That's perfect, right? Why we get because he always adds an extra curly brackets, but he has written the full method. I don't have to change anything. He knows that I have to fit the container. He knows that this is the file path, and the file path is not important while using the blob, because if you have the container, you just need the file name. He extracted the file name. He used he get the reference for blob, and he tried just to upload on the same blob, so it will be replaced. And he knows this code from in here. He's very genius. He saved me tons of time in this method. So this is basically the most important thing I want to show for you in this demo, and I hope you enjoyed it. The last thing and the most important thing is when I shouldn't get GitHub Copilot. Okay, first of all, if you are new to programming, or if you are learning C# or maybe other languages supported by GitHub Copilot, never get it, because it will write a lot of things for you. Even if you look at the code and you understood it, it is not the same of writing Git by yourself. So GitHub Copilot will save time only if you are in a level where you are working on a project and you are very good at writing code, you are learning on the way. So it's not you don't understand anything and you are trying to understand or step by step. If you are in this case, never get it. Like, let me show an example. Save file async. If you are saving using PHP, JavaScript, Ruby, C#, whatever it is, the concept is the same. And whatever the storage you are using, Azure Blob Storage or something on AWS or local in your folder, the steps are the same. You need to get the file, you need to check the name, you need to make sure that the extension is valid, you need to make sure that the size is valid with your server, then you need to create a new unique name, then you need to save the file on your storage provider. So the steps are the same. GitHub Copilot is going to write them for you. So if you look at them, it's easy to understand what this code is doing because it's commented. But if you are new to this field, it's not easy to write it. You need to know those steps and you need to let your brain think about what's next. Why I need to check the size. So why I need to check the extension. What should I do? You need to think deeply and you need to make your brain work more and more. GitHub Copilot will prevent you from doing that. So it will be like an enemy of you to learn and advance your thinking in the domain. This is the case. The third case, if you are doing like competitive programming and using like a lot of algorithms and data structures, GitHub Copilot is very good at doing those because there is millions of lines of code existing online about that, and GitHub Copilot actually knows them very well. So if we type in here, like, I'm not sure if I'm in the context of storage he will understand, but let's see. Pool, binary, search, and here I'll give it an array. Wait a little bit. Here we go. He has written all of the code for you. So if you are doing competitive programming, I don't think GitHub Copilot is a good option for you because it will be doing your work. Not 100%, but most of the problems that you're going to solve is existing online on GitHub and on stuff like that. So he already learned that. So describe the problem in here and he will resolve it for you. So if you are learning and you are looking for the solution, it will help you. But if you are pushing your brain to find the solution, GitHub Copilot will going to prevent you from doing that, because the moment you write the name of the method, it will write it for you. And yeah, I don't think it's a good idea for the third stage. So yeah, this is everything. I think I explained the major point that I found useful and the point that I don't find useful, and you can actually, my summary for that if you are an experienced programmer who is writing code to build the projects, and like, you're not just writing code to learn, I mean, so go ahead and GitHub Copilot. It fully deserves. It saves you tons of time and hours during your day, month, weekly, and month, and that it's actually totally worth it. And it's not expensive when it comes to this case, because I think it's around $6 or $10 a month. So I know for some regions it depends on the region and on the situation, the salary, the company you're working for, but it's still like 20 hours a month or 50 hours a month of saving code and removing those boring stuff and making your code enjoyable, as you know that you're writing a method, suddenly your method gets completed like very quickly by one hit of a tab, is actually worth $10 a month. So this is everything I want to talk about. I hope you enjoyed it, and you can find the link for the GitHub Copilot in the description box below. Very quick note, to get started is something very simple. I'm just talking about in Visual Studio in here. Just go to extensions, manage extensions, and search here for Copilot, and you are just good to go. Install it. Just install it. After you install, just hit on the free trial. It gives you also, I think, 30 or 60 days free trial. I think 30 days free trial. And yeah, you can test it for free at the beginning, and then if you would like, you can continue with the service or no. So this is everything for this video. I hope you enjoyed it, and yeah, don't forget to hit the like, subscribe, and share button to support for more content. And thank you so much.